end up being a one-man podcast.
No.
Just Jesse on a rooftop.
That could be a vibe, though. All right, we're gonna
on TikTok that does her own podcast.
check in.
Emma Chamberlain.
All right, everybody.
Podcast.
Welcome to this episode of the Rooftop Pod. As you can tell, me, Andrew, and Rachel are back at our family home on the OG rooftop. And we're back here for Thanksgiving. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Doing
Good.
well. Got sleep.
That's good. Rachel apparently has, well, both me and Rachel haven't been really sleeping that well this past few weeks. But
True.
It's tough, buddy.
hey, but I got blackout curtains. It's over for everyone now.
Okay,
I'm gonna
well,
get good night of
curtains don't
sleep
help
every
me.
night. What do you mean?
Because I wake
Oh,
up
yeah,
before
you-
the sun rises.
Anyways, actually, we all came back early this week for Thanksgiving break because we actually celebrated our mom's birthday the other day. Our mom is a very special person to all of us, so this episode's actually dedicated to our mom, Daiming, who's actually just right next door to us right now.
Next
I don't think
door.
she's
Right.
right downstairs. Sorry,
Yeah.
right downstairs for us. Yeah, we're gonna be talking a little bit about our mom's immigration story from our perspective, and kind of talking about how she has impacted our lives and what she kind of means to us, because she played a really big role in all of our growing ups, obviously, because she's our mom. But to us, she's a really special person, and we really can't be more grateful for her as a person to us. So we're going to start off this episode with kind of our favorite memories about mom, or our favorite things about mom. One thing that I think rubbed off on me and kind of rubbed off, I can see on all of us, like a characteristic of her that rubbed off on all of us, is her keen interest on items that are on sale. So a lot of us are very frugal, Andrew especially, and I think a lot of that comes from our mom being a very frugal person growing up. And one of the funniest things to me is that I think for her, she's not even just trying to save money. It's almost kind of a game to her, where she'll buy things that are on sale just because they're on sale, not necessarily because they're things that she actually needs.
Yeah, and I think, like, from my perspective, I've also started doing this too, where it's like a game. It's like, how much money can I get off of a certain item?
Exactly.
It's not even, like, it was really funny because I went to Kroger and I bought a pineapple. I think it was like $1.27 for a whole pineapple, right? And so I bought that for
$1.27?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's
It
a
was
deal.
so cheap. Yeah.
How many did you buy? Like 10?
I only bought, well, no, I
Mom
only
would have bought 10.
Mom did buy 10. Or she didn't buy 10, but she bought several. And so I bought it, like, without knowing that
Having
Mom...
pineapple for days.
Yeah, without knowing that Mom also bought pineapple. So, like, I got home and I told Mom, and I was like, oh my goodness,
We
pineapples
both
at
got
Kroger were so cheap.
pineapples.
And Mom was like, yeah, I know, I bought like 5 of them.
That's hilarious.
yeah.
It's really funny because I think as kids when we were growing up, our diets were dictated by what was on sale week at either Costco or Kroger's.
Yeah.
And so, like, some days we would just eat a certain type of vegetable or certain fruit or certain cut of meat just because that was on sale for that week, and that's all Mom would buy.
It's like seasonal produce. It's great.
Yeah, kind of. And what's really interesting to me is, like, so growing up, she didn't like us eating unhealthy foods, right? A lot. Like, she didn't let us really eat ramen. She didn't really let us eat out. But recently, my favorite ramen, like the black shin ramen, started being on sale at Kroger's. So she bought the entire rack at Kroger's, bought like 10 packs of them. And now our family eats ramen, like the black shin ramen, despite the fact that she has been morally against it her whole life.
Well,
Which I think is pretty interesting.
I can't remember when we started doing this, but we also started eating pizza, like, on Sundays for lunch, because Mom just didn't want to cook. So she'd buy like the pizza that was on sale at either Costco or Kroger, and then just heat that up in the oven. I don't know when that started, but I can't remember that happening when we were super young.
That was my favorite days. I think on Sundays, Dad would, like, either
Fridays.
go out
Before youth group. I feel like
we did that. We did do that on
like
Fridays.
Those are Papa John's.
Yeah. I thought we did that on Sundays too after church sometimes.
Yeah.
I just remember being
this
dongs
is...
after Sunday.
Oh, that's
true.
That's
Leftovers.
classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think sometimes it's hilarious because she'll come back with the most random grocery hauls that I've ever seen. Like, just the most eclectic collections of items. that were just things that were on sale, not necessarily things that we needed.
Mom, oh my goodness, she warmed up some like almond cakes for me this morning, and she was like, "Guess how much these cost?" I was like,
"Oh yeah, those were dank though.
They're so good."
They're dank.
She was like, $3.78 for 30.
That's what she told me this morning too.
I was like, no way.
But yeah, I mean that was one of her best finds in a while because I thoroughly enjoyed that for breakfast this morning.
Okay, what she says, I guess this is a life hack of sorts, but when products are new at Costco, like they end up being a lot cheaper than what they retail for later. So like if you find it cheaper earlier, like if it's the first time you're seeing it in Costco, get it because it's only going to be that cheap for a little bit of time.
Only that period of time. A life hack right there. I need a Costco membership because that stuff's life changing. I only get stuff whenever I'm back home and go with mom.
I know. I packed like a half empty suitcase because I knew mom was gonna pack it up from the good deals from Costco when I go back to New York.
That's what I do.
Leave lots of room in the suitcase.
So mom buys these big cooler bags for us, and she says she uses it for herself, but it's really so that she can pack a bunch of stuff for us, bring it back home, and every time we come back home, we bring back the cooler case empty so she can fill it up again. And it's great. I think that's one of the biggest benefits. I mean, you're flying hauls of grocery back home. That's pretty intense.
That's what we do. Yeah. New York is way too expensive.
Do you have a Costco in New York?
Yeah, my roommate has a Costco membership.
Okay.
Oh, period.
Oh, there are Costcos in New York? Or like outside?
Delivered. I think there's one in Brooklyn or Queens. Somewhere in the boroughs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of the best things you can find in life is a friend with a Costco membership. Because if you have a friend with a Costco membership, you basically have a Costco membership.
Yeah.
And I have a few of those friends, so I basically have a Costco membership. I wanted to know if you guys had any favorite memories of mom or another word for it. Fondest memory of mom growing up.
Mine isn't growing up. This is like pretty recent, but I just remember it being super comforting and being like, wow, I am insanely lucky to have like the mom that I have. And it was in college. It was this semester, LOL. I've been
last week.
I've been going through
It was yesterday.
But I remember at the beginning of the semester, I think it was like maybe a month or 2 months in, I realized how much I had overcommitted myself yet again.
Yeah, nothing new there.
Yeah, nothing new. But like this semester especially has been insane. And so I like had a moment to just step back and look at how my time was being spent, and I realized like none of it was going towards myself. Like I had no time to care for myself. Like the only time I was home and had time to do things was to cook food for myself because I needed to eat, and that was more of an obligation. Brush my teeth, shower, and then bed. Like I had no other free time to like sit idly on scrolling on TikToks or watching YouTube videos or whatever. It was either work. Yeah, it was either work or like do the bare minimum to take care of myself.
Yes.
And so I was telling mom how I was just feeling super overwhelmed and how I felt like I had no time to do anything and that I wasn't taking and that I wasn't taking like I didn't have time to take care of myself or the people around me. And I was just really stressed out by it, and I was calling mom crying on this call because I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is so unsustainable. And then the next day, she makes dad drive up with a ton of food. With a bunch of food.
Wow.
I know. And when dad drove up, and they didn't even tell me. They were just like...
Oh, they surprised you?
Yeah, well, it was more like, oh, dad's coming to drop groceries off. And I was like, wait a second. Because they were going to... they were going to Chicago the next day. So I was like, what? Like, why? It just seems like an unnecessary trip. It's just a 3-hour round trip just to drop food off for me. Wow. And mom had, like, packed, all her little... knickknacks of here's some fruit, here's some like whatever grains and like, snacks and
balls, frozen foods and everything.
Frozen balls. Oh my goodness.
I used to get annoyed by how much mom would pack me each time I was either going back to college or going back to school. because like she would give me an overwhelming amount of food that I couldn't fit in the fridge. Like I have roommates, I have people that I live with, and I just dominate the entire fridge because mom packs me so much food, and that became annoying to me. But now I feel bad that I was annoyed by it, because I'd be like, Mom, stop giving me all this food.
What about those 50 apples you just got a couple weeks ago?
I finished mine.
I gave Rachel like half of them, but I mean, I think a lot of Asian parents are like this, where like feeding is like their love language, or like making sure their kids are well fed and making sure they have food to eat is like the way that they show love and affection. And realizing that, I'm kind of like, at this point, I'm just like, I'm gonna put up with it, and then sometimes I secretly just like give away like a lot of the stuff that she gives me, because I'm just like,
her intention too. Like mom knows that I give my friends the food that she makes me, because I'm really proud to show it off, because I'm like, look at my mom, she's so good at baking.
Dude, when I make,
she made the dosha from scratch.
When I make balls for my friends, they're like, holy crap, this is like so good. And I've always thought that mom could probably start her own restaurant if she wanted to, because she has accumulated enough like recipes that are like fantastic and super tasty that I think would do very well in a restaurant setting. But she just makes it for us, which honestly just makes it more special. Anyway, speaking of love languages, I feel like
talk about this.
Other people's fondest memories.
Oh yeah, do you have a fond memory of mother before we continue?
I think my fondest memories are mom, are all like the little things that accumulate over the years. Just like I love going back home talking about Costco, like Costco trips with mom, because mom is like, oh, I need someone to help lift like the dog food or lift heavy objects. So she's like, oh, Andrew, can you come with me? I'm just like, oh, happily. And I think those are the best conversations, when we're just driving to Costco, walking down the aisles, just talking about how her life is doing, how my life is doing, or when like we're sending Philip and John to soccer practice, and then we kind of just either jog around the soccer fields or just watch Philip and John play soccer. Those are probably the best
it's
moments.
like those small, quiet moments with mom that honestly I appreciate the most. There's nothing. Mom's not like a very out there, loud kind of person. She lives a very quiet, simple life, and that's kind of her mantra of life. Is like keeping everything just low key, simple and low key, and just appreciating the small moments in life. Especially for us, I think, because we have kind of lived a life. I wouldn't say she hasn't lived a life full of experiences, but she's kind of already done that. She's done like the moving across to a different country and like experiencing a whole nother life in a different society, where now she's like going back to the basics. She's like, oh, like that doesn't provide me like happiness or joy. The things that provide me happiness and joy are the simple things with my family, and the simple being able to provide a good life for her kids. And we were just talking a little bit about love languages, and mom definitely has a very particular love language for us. It's definitely acts of service. And my natural love language I don't think is acts of service. But I also think this extends more broadly to Asian American parents in general. Most Asian American parents, as anecdotally from what I've heard, show their love through acts of service. Very, very few Asian American parents express their love through physical touch or through words of affirmation. I think we were deprived of that as a kid. And I think that's kind of so those two are now my love languages, I think, because I didn't really get that as a kid, so now I seek that in like a romantic partner. But the weird thing is I've never really
Interesting.
I think I'm the same. As in, no, I don't think I show my love through words of affirmation or physical touch readily, but I enjoy those two the most out of the 5, and I didn't think I would prior to being in a relationship. I thought going into a relationship, my top love languages would be acts of service and quality time. Because those were like the love languages that we were shown. But also I think because we were never shown how to like express love physically or express love through words of affirmation, like I didn't know how to do it when I came into when I like started engaging in relationships.
Because, I mean, I've never seen, until kind of recently, maybe within the last year, but even then, I think it's not even, like, that prevalent, but I've never seen, like, mom or dad show any affection towards each other, like, through physical touch or through words of affirmation. In fact, no. I almost feel like dad shows love through sarcastic jokes, and that's what I've developed. So, like, it was almost to a point where it's problematic, where I would poke,
Andrew.
like, I would roast people as a way of showing love, and that's what dad does.
Yeah.
That's what dad does. That's like literally one of his love languages, to roast people. And, like, if the person you're roasting is not familiar with kind of who you are, then it becomes problematic.
Yeah.
But because mom and dad never showed affection to each other in ways that are more prevalent in Western civilization, it was kind of like a process to understand how that's done properly and how it's done correctly.
I think another note on that, though, was even though they never outwardly kind of showed their love towards each other, like, you could tell that they really loved each other. And now I'm trying to, like, think back on why that is, because there are a lot of situations where kids, like, don't experience that, and that's just because there's no love between their parents.
Like, there actually isn't love between their parents, right? Whereas we're pretty confident that our parents love each other.
100%.
Yes, very, very.
What do you mean?
But I don't think that was always the case. So I almost feel like mom and dad, even though their relationship wasn't technically arranged, it was more or less arranged.
Well, okay, no.
Yeah.
So I talked to dad about this, because apparently he tells other people that it was an arranged marriage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So people will ask me, they'll be like, "Did your parents have an arranged marriage?" And I was like, "Who told you that?" And they're like, "Your dad." They're like, "What?" And I think dad told me that for a little bit too. So I just got really confused. But here's how I understand it.
Okay.
I think dad feels bad for mom, because he feels like he, like, drug her away from everything that she had in China.
Dragged her
away from everything that she had in China.
Very big distinction.
Drug her? Oh.
Jeez.
My bad. Sorry, my brain's a little slow today. It's melatonin. But basically, right, like, we all know mom back in China,
Mom's
like,
story.
her whole family was there, her mom was there, and she was studying to be an anesthesiologist. She was going to open a practice with her sister. Like, everything was kind of already set there. And so how mom and dad, or I think it was dad that explained it to me. I think I've had a lot more conversations with dad about his life than I have with mom about her life, just because dad is more open talking about it, and is more like a storyteller in that sense. But how he explains it is that mom's mom, like, heavily encouraged her to marry dad, because she saw a lot of qualities in dad that she didn't necessarily get from a marriage that she was super happy in, if that makes sense. Not to,
Interesting.
throw Waigong down or anything, because he's great.
Yeah.
As a grandpa, right? And so, dad was smart. Dad obviously cared a lot about mom. And the turning point, and this is so cute. Every time dad tells me this story, I'm like, your life is a movie. We're making this a movie. Like,
yes.
Life is a movie, right?
Dad's life is a movie.
It is a movie.
It really is.
Basically, him and mom had broken up, like, a little bit ago before a big holiday. But mom had already invited him home. And so the plans had already been made, like, the space had already been made for him at mom's home. And so dad was like, I guess I'm still going. And so he brings this cake, and it's
I actually don't know this story.
Storming outside. Like, it's so cold. It's raining. It's pouring. Dad has to, like, travel several hours, like, hours to mom's house. And he, like, shows up. He's completely drenched, and, like, all he was doing was covering the cake on the way there. So the cake's good, but he's not. And so he arrives with the cake.
Oh, that's one of the most romantic things I've ever heard Dad doing.
Yeah. And he is so sick for, like, the next couple of days. He's completely knocked out. He's, like, bedridden, not even waking up, completely unconscious, just, like, sleeping because he got so sick from that. transit. And then so that was the moment when White Pool was like, this
he's
is
the
guy.
one.
Yeah. And so it was, Mom was heavily influenced by her mom, who she really, really loved.
Yep.
And like took her advice very
Mom
seriously.
and White Pool were super close.
Yeah.
She always talks, that's the one thing she talks about a lot, is her relationship with her mom. And that's her relationship with her mom, I think, is the relationship that we kind of have with our mom now. Because Mom, like, really intentionally wanted to replicate or model her motherhood after how she was raised by her own mother. I'm going to pause it right here because I wanted to go into something that's going to take a while, so... Oh yeah. Stop bringing past
God.
stuff up, man. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dad told you that story, right?
Yeah.
So like, I feel like for me, I've never really heard about Mom's perspective of this story until like, I would say like 3-4 years ago, and she never ever told me like a full story from her perspective. I kind of just like pieced things together on my own over the years. And do you remember like 2 years ago or 3 years ago during COVID where like I made that video for Mother's Day and I showed it to her? That was the year that I finally like pieced together Mom's immigration story from her perspective. So this is kind of like, and Mom has like I think she's told us all bits and pieces of this while we were growing up. But Mom, as you kind of alluded to earlier, didn't really want to go to the U.S. with Dad. I think she found Dad very unattractive. He was short, dark. Yeah, yo cho, yo ai, yo hey. He was like, by beauty standards in China, he's not an attractive person.
Yeah, and Mom was attracting all the guys.
Yeah, Mom was a very attractive lady, and she was young. She was going to become a doctor. She had her whole future ahead of her, and she had a very promising life for her in China. But once she met Dad, I don't think she really wanted to date Dad, but because of how close she was with her mom, just because her mom said that her mom approved of Dad, she took her mom's word for it. And honestly, it worked out. Like, her mom had a very good perception of who people are and the person that they are. And obviously Dad, I think, is a great person, and now they've created a really great life together. But it took a lot of...
handsome now.
Our dad is very handsome now. I mean, he was kind of busted from pictures I've seen of him before. So I don't blame Mom necessarily for not being attracted to Dad at first. But it definitely took Mom a lot of faith to kind of be like, hey, my mom thinks this is a good idea, so I'm going to leave my entire career as an anesthesiologist, go to a foreign country where she doesn't even know the language. So she never took the TOEFL, which is like the English exam that you need to study in America. She never took that, so her English was pretty subpar, almost non-existent. I don't think she could speak really any English. So there are it took a ton of courage and faith for Mom to move here, and I don't think we often really appreciate that aspect of Mom coming to America. We always talk about how Dad came to America, how Dad found like a school here. He studied really hard to get here. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, and of course Daddy definitely took a leap of courage, but he was doing it for his own career,
right? And
he was doing it for himself. Whereas Mom did this entirely for her family. She did it entirely for Dad. She did it entirely for her mother. And then when she came here, I'm sure when she left, she knew the terms and the conditions for her visa. She when she came to the U.S., she couldn't leave the U.S. for 5 to 6 years in order for her visa to stay valid.
Yeah.
And so when she came to the U.S., she also knew that she was leaving her family and not going to be able to see them for another 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, FaceTime didn't exist. Like, you
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
see, you literally couldn't see.
You had to
like,
call for international calls.
you have to call,
Yeah.
and then maybe you could send mail.
Pay. Sorry.
Pay, yeah. You have to pay extra to even call your family. And so when she came here, she was taking the leap of faith of also not being able to see her family again. And then she had me her almost immediately. Like, when she came here, she had me. And Mom told me that, and I could put, like, she never really told me that she was depressed. But she would tell me that when she came here, she didn't like any of the food that they had in the U.S. So she would only eat ramen.
Yeah.
And we know Mom doesn't love ramen that much. She was only eating it because it was like the only appetizing thing. And also probably because she was like homesick and depressed.
And it's Ohio. Like, what Chinese food was here? Yeah.
20 plus years ago, too. And to put things into perspective, Mom was 1 year younger than you.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. She was very young, and like the only person she knew was Dad. No friends, no family. Not even a year passes by for Mom in America, and this part's really hard for me to talk about because I just I couldn't imagine being in her shoes and finding out a few months later, after being in the U.S., she finds out that her mom passed away in a car accident. I can't even imagine how much Mom was hurting, because she took this leap of faith to come to the U.S. because of her mom. And the one person she loved the most and like gave up everything for. And the thing is, she couldn't even go back to China to like grieve her mom's loss. And so she just grieved quietly on her own in the U.S. About, I think, 5 or 6 years later, when she was able to go back to China. And this is honestly one of my core memories, was going back to China and visiting our Waipo's gravesite. That's like the first time I've ever seen Mom cry so intensely. Because that was
Man, just you got the whole fam crying.
I know, I was crying on this rooftop too.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sorry, I just, whenever I think about
good.
this,
No,
it's heartbreaking to me to
No.
really understand what Mom had to go through to get the life that she has now. But yeah, the first time we went back to China in like 2001, when she was finally able to leave the U.S., I remember we took this like trail through some I don't know, some farmland to get to the gravesite. And that was the first time Mom ever got to see her mom again. And so we always have this picture of Waipo in our house, and she was like the grandma we never got to meet. But we've always heard so much about. And the way I think Mom really honors her memory is to kind of be the type of mother she was to her, to us. And think Mom is one of the most special people I've ever met. Sorry, like killing this. I didn't expect this.
It's fine. I'm just crying.
Anyways, so sorry I had to bring the mood down.
No, you're good.
It's crazy because we already cried about this in Denver too.
Oh man, every time I think about this, it's so tough because I can't imagine being my age, quitting my job to follow a man I don't even love yet, and then like learning that the parent that I was the closest to passed away, and there's nothing she could do. She couldn't even go see her. And
it's like
that
the support system is not established in America yet.
And all she could do was grieve on her own. And I think Mom is honestly one of the strongest people I've ever met. I can't imagine going through that and still like having like the will to keep pushing forward with the life and in the way that she did. But yeah, I need to take a break for a second if you guys want to say anything. And now I feel like a lot of my life is honestly, I just want to be able to make sure Mom has the best life that she could possibly live for the rest of her life. I wish I brought tissues. Like,
just rubbing it on your Patagonia.
It's fine. I'll blow my nose later.
Blow it off the side of the roof.
Like this. No, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I've heard a lot of stories, because I've talked about this with some of my friends as well, where like their mothers, it's a very common story of like Asian mothers being brought here by the immigrant father, who's there to pursue their career, and they're kind of left to do everything on their own. And it's such a tough life. And it hurts because it's like this woman has given us so much, and like I just want her, like I feel like my goal in life now is to make Mom and Dad proud.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we can never do enough to kind of give back enough for the sacrifice that she made, which I understand now. Like, we just have to do our best to, I don't know, keep Mom happy. And I feel like Mom's happiness is not really the same, like the way she gets happiness is not really the same way that we get happiness. And like being able to learn the ways that Mom feels appreciated has been a goal of mine. I know now that she really enjoys just talking to us and us calling her. I think as most parents do, where to us, like I don't necessarily feel loved just if someone calls me, but like I will be pretty intentional about making sure I call Mom as frequently as possible whenever I think about it. Just not even like for any reason. She'll be like, "Oh, why are you calling me? Like, you never really call me." I'll be like, "Oh no, I just wanted to chat, see how life is." And I think she really appreciates that. And I encourage you to, if you ever have free time or you're just, I don't know, need someone to talk to, Mom's always so happy and generous with her time and being able to talk to us.
And I think another thing that I usually lean on Mom for is Mom provides like a level of emotional support that no one else in this family can give. Like when I want to feel comfort and I want to feel safe and that someone loves and supports me. Oh,
Mom,
sorry. Mom is really, really good.
Mom has probably one of the most infectious and peaceful, calm presence that of anyone that I've met. And like when you're around our mom, you just get this sense of peace that everything's gonna be okay and everything's kind of taken care of. And this brings me to another memory that I have of Mom, and it's a pretty recent one. So Mom is like, to almost a fault, one of the most caring person that I've ever met. So recently we had an elder of our church towards the end of her life had hepatic cancer, and it became metastatic, and she was coming to the end of her life. and she had no relatives. She didn't have any spouse or any family to really take care of her. So mom like almost immediately took up the opportunity to take care of this old lady who kind of had nothing else left to live for in this world. And we had her at our home for several months, and mom would, I mean, no one deserves mom, and even this stranger that not stranger, sorry, she's very close. Sorry, no, I forget I said that. She's someone that mentored mom in the past, and someone that mom was close to, but someone that wasn't her family, she took in and took care of for 3 months. And this was not just like regular taking care of people. This was like full-time nursing, hospice care, like taking her to the restroom, cleaning up after her when she doesn't use the restroom properly, brushing her teeth, helping her bathe, feeding her, and doing this for months
giving her meds.
straight. Yeah. And the thing is, mom did it without really any complaining. She just did it because she loves and cares for people so much. And at the end of this woman's life, when she was actually taken to a hospice care facility, on the day, or like in the last couple of days that this woman had to live, she was in a lot of pain, like, and was constantly asking for morphine and complaining about how much pain that she was in. And then I think one night they were like, okay, we're gonna like, we don't think she's gonna like make it past this night. And they asked her, is there anything that you want to do, or anyone you want to see before like the end of your life? Because she was still fighting for her life. And she was like, yeah, there is one person I want to see, Daiming, who's our mom. And mom came in and had a conversation with her, prayed with her, and then that night she passed away, apparently very peacefully. So, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah. So just the kind of presence and the effect that she has on people, I never really realized or fully understood, because she mostly moves in the shadows and kind of goes unnoticed. And for most of my life, I really didn't notice how much mom was doing and the kind of effect she has on people. Because she doesn't, when she does stuff for people and takes care of people, she never talks about it. She never complains. So you never notice it.
And she like doesn't expect anything in return either.
She never expects anything in return. So to me, I think those kind of people are truly like the purest people that you can find in this world. And she happens to be our mom. She makes me believe that, like,
makes you regain faith in humanity.
Yeah, it makes you believe
people
that like,
out there exist.
Like angels do live on this earth. I think our mom is a little angel. We literally don't deserve her. It's crazy. That's I kind of wanted to get on here to share mom's story, and because I feel like a lot of people know about dad's stories. We definitely all know about dad's stories because he's a great storyteller, and he's told us about all the adventures he's been on, and the hardships that he went through when he came to the U.S. And he's always been very intentional about us, like, being really kind to mom and, like, making sure that she's taken care of, because I think he also recognizes how much she's sacrificed for our family. But I don't think I realized it until very recently. I think her story should not just go unspoken. And that's kind of the reason why that Mother's Day I wanted to make that memory or video to kind of commemorate her. And I hope to do more of that kind of stuff in the future, because I know she really appreciated it. And yeah, I hope that we're doing good as children to make her proud and make her happy. I know she tells us all the time that we are kind of what makes all this worth it, and now she's extremely happy with the life that she has, and she brags about all of us all the time. And
Is she happy?
I think, yeah, I think so.
Is the day-to-day ideal?
I mean, yes, obviously raising 2 annoying children at home, or 5 of us at one point that are super annoying at home. That day-to-day is like, but she lives for it. She wants.
Mom is
to
really
be
good
among
at
us.
deriving joy out of the little things in life, and I think that bringing other people happiness brings her a lot more joy.
She just has like the most undying passion for caring for people that I've never seen in someone, and that's she always tells me that's how her mom was, like just like over the top, like caring and loving towards people, and just being very kind and gentle. I don't know if there's anything to really talk about after that, but do you guys want to? I think I have a couple of other things, because I wanted to talk a little bit about religion, but that might be a whole podcast on its own, because I think in those really, really dark days, it's not like, she needed something to like carry her through. She needed community. She needed some
hope,
higher reason to like higher purpose to kind of move on with life. And I think the church has been fundamental in how she was able to like cope with all this and kind of be able to
come out of
find purpose, and come out of this even stronger. But we can leave that for another topic. I think today we can just cut a little shorter. If you guys want to say anything in particular, otherwise we can just cut it off now and talk about it in the next episode.
I don't know.
Anyways.
The only thought that I have in my mind right now is, wow, I love Mom, and I love and appreciate her so much.
Yeah.
And we do not deserve
the other
her.
thing about Mom is like the traditional ways of how people like show love and affection here in the U.S. is like buying gifts for Mom, or like on Mother's Day, like taking her out to a nice dinner.
Yeah.
But Mom hates all those things.
Yeah.
She doesn't want us to buy
I
gifts.
don't
She
think
hates eating out.
it.
She would
It's
just
more like-
she's happier eating at home and like us not having
she
to
likes
spend
spending
money.
time with her.
Yeah, so again, that's all about like us learning what her love languages are and us learning about how she feels appreciated.
Well, okay, go get a tissue. Go get a tissue.
No, it's fine. I just wipe it on my. I'll take care of it later.
Okay.
There's nothing I can do about now.
We don't deserve Mom.
Yeah, truly. I mean, one of the things I really want to do, and I've talked about this before, is to kind of document the memories and like the process of Mom and Dad's immigration to the U.S. And this is one really key element that I want to be able to like showcase or like be able to preserve, because I think it's kind of the keystone to our immigration story, because all of this is like our story. Like if Mom hadn't carried through and had the courage to move here and move past all that pain, I don't think obviously we wouldn't be here. So yeah, let's go inside and spend some time with Mom. All right, so this has been another episode of the Rooftop Pod. Thank you all for hanging out with us. My name is Jesse.
I'm Rachel.
I'm Andrew.
And we will see you on the next episode.
Peace.